Hi, hello. My name is Cartawo, and I'd like to thank you for stopping by to this video. Today, I'm going to be telling you why I think you should be playing Final Fantasy XIV. So please kick back, listen, and join me for this adventure. So you've heard of Final Fantasy XIV, but have no idea if you should check it out. That happens a lot. Well, the question I guess is, should you? I mean, I can't personally say, but I am here to give you what I think would be good reasons for you to check this game out. And also, I'll be sure to give you reasons as to why you may not want to check the game out. But I personally think that the draws are much more worth it than the deterrence would be. My opinions will honestly come from a place of bias, just forewarning, as this game, Final Fantasy XIV, is one of my favorite MMOs and Final Fantasy games in general. So I'll do my best to avoid the bias and try and give, more objective feedback. So let's go ahead and get to it. So before I go into any detail about the game in general, I guess I should answer the question, what is Final Fantasy XIV? To put it plainly, it's the second MMO addition to the Final Fantasy franchise following 11. There is a lot more to it than that, though. This game is Final Fantasy XIV. The game was originally released in 2010 in September worldwide. Unfortunately, it wasn't that well received. I wasn't playing the game at the time, so I don't know what caused it to shut down or caused its popularity to drop, but November was the final update in 2012, and then that December is when the game ceased operation. Soon thereafter, about 10 months, the game was re-released, completely rebuilt from the ground up as Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, and has been quite successful since then. Development has been headed by a man named Naoki Yoshida, or more fondly referred to as Yoshi P. This game has shown a dramatic shift to a game crafted with both love for the series and community. It's very obvious to tell just by playing and looking into it. It has seen 3 released expansions, each with incredible stories and awesome new classes added, along with raid series, new areas, new quest lines and races. There's a lot of content for what they put out in these expansions, or X-Packs. If you're at all interested and you want to see the end of the first game, because it is actually quite interesting and kind of haunting in its own way, there's uploaded videos on YouTube of the final hours or final minutes of Final Fantasy XIV. It still is incredible the amount of detail that they put into the shutdown sequence. I watched it and was honestly kind of amazed, and still it's just incredible to see it, even if I wasn't there to be a part of it. So I would recommend going to watch that. Okay, now that we've covered what Final Fantasy XIV is, in a very, very, very broad sense, we should go ahead and answer the question, why should you try it? So, many people who are fans of the Final Fantasy series will have no doubt seen this game, as it is a very prominent name in the new wave of Final Fantasy games. Even more people online will have probably at least heard of the game, because, Final Fantasy is one of the most prominent fantasy JRPG series, or fantasy series in general, but people who play this game post a lot about it or talk a lot about it, and I'm sure they would have seen it through their friends or posts on social media online, because I know I've done both, posted and seen online. A good portion of people who have played Final Fantasy, I'm sure, probably picked up the game simply because of the name Final Fantasy being attached to it, which is not always the best idea, but it's absolutely an understandable one, because Final Fantasy tends to have a reputation for putting out pretty quality games, minus the initial release of 14, but I can't speak much on that. Advertisements for this game aren't very widespread. The last one that I've seen for it was at the release of Shadowbringers, which has been probably over a year ago, and that's talking advertisements on social media or something, or various websites. I've not seen any advertisements on just various websites, I have seen stuff coming from Final Fantasy or Square Enix itself, though. So that a lot of it is kind of, I forget the term for it, organic marketing and organic growth. So a lot of people who play the game will recruit their friends to play, or a lot of people who are already fans of the Final Fantasy series may pick this up and try it. But even with the advertisements that are shown, sometimes they're just banners, and ones that are more than that are going to be like CG trailers, which are fantastic, no doubt, but they still leave a lot of the game up in the air. So there may not be a lot people know about it unless they've actually looked into it, or instead of just watching the advertisements. So first, I'm going to go ahead and start off by giving you guys reasons that might steer you away. Please listen to all the reasons, both ones that I think would keep you and ones that might push you away, just so you can make your own decision. But I'll do these first just so I can kind of capitalize on those by giving you reasons I think you should stay. But the first one, like the first big reason, is that this is one of the few games that still use a monthly subscription payment. That's probably the number one reason people do not pick this game up. I understand that because not everyone can afford a monthly subscription, but keep in mind that that does a lot. It allows them to have a higher development budget than like free-to-play or microtransaction-based games. And it also kind of helps sort the community out, because generally people who will want to play this game are people who really want to play this game. Not saying toxic people won't pay for it and want to play it, but a lot of the times it's going to help the community be better, and it's going to allow the devs to create stuff for us more than just creating content in general. It'll allow the devs to listen to us more, to create more of a sense of community than a lot of free-to-play games can do. It's probably the biggest reason, but there's a few other reasons too. This is a very unique addition to the Final Fantasy series. There aren't many games that are like it in the series itself. Even like compared to other MMOs, I feel like this one's pretty unique in and of itself. But going back to the Final Fantasy entry, diehard fans of classic Final Fantasy, so like turn-based combat or heavy RPG elements, may not be interested because a lot of these things are cut out. Okay, not cut out. A lot of these things aren't accentuated like they are in other games. It's definitely not turn-based combat by any means, but it does have some light RPG elements, like you'll still level up, you'll still be able to pick classes, you'll learn skills as you level up those classes. So kind of in the standard MMO, like, not trope, but standard MMO fashion. But it's still going to be different. Gameplay for this is also very different. If you're watching a video, it may honestly seem kind of slow, but once you pick it up and you get to like, I'd say level 30, because the game felt really clunky at first for me. But once I hit about level 30, I fell into that groove, and then that's kind of when things started to pick up, and I started to understand how the game works, and it started to feel a lot better. But if you're looking for games, like incredibly fast-paced games like Devil May Cry, Furi, Bayonetta, also a bunch of hack-and-slash games, like there's the Samurai Warriors Orochi series, Sengoku Basara, Hyrule Warriors, anything like that, this is definitely going to be different. And if you're thinking this game's going to be like that, it's not. So I don't want you to be disappointed and come in thinking it like that, but don't let that off-put you too much. And the last thing I can think of is the story can definitely get a bit sloggy at times. Like, one of the big ones is after the story of like any expansion finishes, there's going to be updates I can't give you a time frame because it really depends, and COVID's thrown everything off, but there's a time frame where they'll add some story after each expansion, so it'll be considered like post A Realm Reborn, post Heaven's Word, etc. Post A Realm Reborn is probably the sloggiest of the entire story, but there are also some parts in A Realm Reborn itself where it can just feel like you're making no progress, you're doing just stupid ass fetch quests and chores, but don't let that deter you too much. They're changing that soon. With the 5.3 update, which is going to be an absolutely massive update, they're going to be removing like 13% of the quests in A Realm Reborn. They're adding flying too, which is fantastic because we've been waiting for that. But the removal of 13% of the quests is quite a few. Like, it's really a lot in the grand scheme because A Realm Reborn has the highest quest count of any of the expansions. And even so, the overarching story for the game is really interesting. So if you're a lore buff, there's a lot you can do to learn about the lore of this game, and it's really amazing. But moving on from the reasons that you would deter you to the reasons that I really think you should play the game. The number one reason for that would be this game, Final Fantasy XIV, has always had a generous free trial available to players. It allows you unlimited playtime, but it does cap your character to level 30, and it also limits your account features. So you cannot like request friends, but if you get friend requested by someone who has the full version, you can accept that. You can't join free companies. That's essentially it. I'm not sure if you can use the market board or trade, but keep those in mind. That's also changing in in 5.3. With 5.3, they're increasing the level cap to 60, so that allows you to play through the entire A Realm Reborn and Heavensward story, which is pretty much like you're going to get to play 2 games for free. And that's amazing. They also give you all the Heavensward content, so like the ability to create now Raw race, or play the 3 classes, Machinist, Astrologian, and Dark Knight that are added within Heavensward. If that alone isn't enough to convince anyone, which it's fine, I'm going to continue on because there's a few other things I do want to talk about. The community, by and large, is wonderful and super helpful. It is far from perfect, obviously. No community is perfect, because I myself have run into quite a few toxic people, and friends who have been playing have run into even more of them, because either they've played longer or played a lot more than I have. But there's definitely toxic people in the game, but by and large, the community is much better than any MMO or online game in general that I've played. There's also an incredibly large RP community, if that's your thing. I'm not really into RP myself, but you can and will find it, and if you're into it, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Although do be warned, there is also Dark RP and NSFW RP out there, so please be of age to do all that stuff. Thanks. And then just also make sure to keep it in check so you don't impede on other people's experiences or your own, just to keep the friendly atmosphere of the community going. Another big reason is this game is made with love and care by the devs. They listen to the community and they're happy to implement stuff for us. One time Yoshi P was at a fan fest. A fan went up to a panel that he was hosting. I think it was Yoshi P. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But went up and asked whoever was hosting the panel if they can add a quality of life change, which they did. And I'm like, I remember learning what the change was. I've since forgotten. If I hear it again, I'll know. But it was a really, really good one. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. So they implemented it like a few months later. It was amazing. And then another famous and infamous one is 2B's ass. So 2B, one of the main characters from Nier Automata, her outfit got added with the first raid in the Shadowbringers raid series. So we got to wear her entire outfit. It wasn't gender locked, it wasn't body type locked, which is awesome. But there was some texture issues, so they fixed that, and they kind of nerfed the ass, so it like became flat and not perky, and yeah, you get it. There was a statement released from the dev team saying, yeah, we fixed it and it changed some stuff, so we're gonna fix it, and they did it. I don't remember what the patch notes said, but they fixed her ass. They rebuffed it. It's a stupid example, but it does get the point across. Getting gear in this game is much easier than most other games. Pretty much, the top tier gear can be bought with in-game earnable currency. The only things that are left up to chance are like cosmetic items or extras like materials for cosmetic items, orchestrion rolls, which is like music, or mounts. Those are really the only things left to chance, and even then you can still buy them. You get drops from the things that drop them to help get the mounts if you aren't able to luck out and get it. And then if you're running like raids, you will get loot boxes. Don't let that like turn you off though. This is a guaranteed loot box. It is guaranteed to give you the piece of armor that it says. So if you get a chest piece coffer, you'll open it on a class you want it for. It will give you a chest piece for that class, guaranteed, 100%. So they're called coffers. I don't know how else to liken it than a loot box, because it serves a similar purpose, but it's not random ass shit. So yeah. And last thing, the events are really cute and the stories are fun. You don't have to spend your life grinding for stuff. I play plenty of games like that still, and it hurts my soul, but I do it because I like the games. But this is better because you can usually finish these in like 20 to 30 minutes. And you get a cute story, you get nice cosmetic items for free, or for very, very cheap. Like the only thing I've actually had to spend gil on for an event item was the King Slime hat and the Dragon Quest thing that's going on right now. It was like 54 gil. That's it. That's like nothing. And you can also get some stuff like through in the community. So like with the, I forget, the Moonfire Fair. There's like this jumping puzzle. It sucks to try and get to the top, but you will be there with people and you can chat with them while you're doing it. So it brings community together. It's great. The game is just meant to be an enjoyable experience. That's what it's meant to be, and I think it really achieves that. So if you're still interested, I'm going to move on to part 3, and you can kind of see the basics of the game. So hopefully with this I've captured your interest a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do the basics of the game. So pretty much I'm just going to show you some stuff that is pretty integral to how the game works and functions and stuff. It's going to be like crafting FCs, which may not seem like a big part, but it is actually a pretty big part. Gathering, combat, especially combat, since that's kind of what the story revolves around. But I'm going to go ahead and get this started, and I'll show you how combat works with both melee classes and caster classes. Okay, so this is the beginning of the melee portion. So I'm going to show you a little bit on Samurai, just because that's the class I'm most familiar with. And what we're going to do here is just go over some basics. So right here on the skill called Hakaze, it's the very first skill you learn. It shows 2.4 seconds, which is the recast time. So that's the GCD, Global Cooldown. So that's the system that primarily works regarding your combos, as you'll see in just a second here. And the skills that we're highlighting with same cooldown are called OGCDs. I'll get into that a little bit later, but whenever you see a skill that's got that highlighted border around it, it usually means it can either be used in a combo or you have enough of a currency, I guess, built up or meter to use it. So if I use Hakaze, there are 3 skills that light up on the main bar. That means I can combo into those, and they'll get a damage bonus and possibly other additional benefits. Those 2 skills I just used there, those were a couple of the OGCDs. So those function differently because they don't share a cooldown with like your primary combo abilities. I just want to avoid getting too in depth because there's a lot you can say here. And this is the section for magic classes. I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. I'm going to use Red Mage as it's probably the caster I'm most familiar with. They function very differently. As you can see, they have a cast time as well, whereas melee classes obviously use melee abilities or like sword slashes automatically. Red Mage has a different shtick called dual cast, so you get to automatically use something, or you gotta automatically cast without having to worry about the cast time, which is neat, but let's not worry about that for now. So right here I'm just doing what's called a hard cast, so I'm casting the abilities that have the longest and it's just to show you cast times, obviously. You can, like you saw earlier, step out and accidentally cancel casting, but if you are close enough to finishing a cast, you can do what's called slide casting, so you don't have to worry about being stuck in place the whole time. So you have mobility options, so don't be afraid that you're going to be stuck. And that's essentially caster classes. I know that may have been somewhat of an overgeneralization of the classes, but it's just to kind of give you a small taste of what combat will look like. Also, earlier you saw me running a Fate. That's another taste of combat. You just kind of saw very low level, like ninja gameplay, or it would have been rogue at that time. That's just kind of how combat looks in general. Sorry for the joke. Another important thing about Final Fantasy is the use of the duty finder. So what this is, it's kind of like what World of Warcraft added recently, I think I heard. I don't know how recently is recently, but like the dungeon grouper, I don't even know the name. I know nothing about World of Warcraft. But you get to choose a dungeon, a trial, which is like a big boss fight, a raid. You can choose anything, and you'll be able to look for different party members, and you can join them, and it'll just automatically pair you with someone trying to run that. As you can see right there, it'll show you the queue time you have, it'll list your current class, it'll list what classes you need. It's super handy, especially if you don't have friends to party with. And then I'm going to show you FCs here. I love my FC. I know this is kind of cheesy, but yeah. This is a quick look at our FC company, or our free company, and I'll just run you through the menus. You can see we have different actions, so these are the buffs that you can activate for your grain company. It's really helpful, especially you can see all the heat of battles. Those are a 10% bonus experience to your battle classes, and those can be active like 24/7. Seriously, as long as you have someone online to activate it when it goes down. This is just a history of actions that you've enacted. So it'll show you when the last action or like thing was used. Down here you can see that the maximum you can use or you can have in your free company is 512. I was in a huge free company beforehand. I know I might have said 600. I don't remember. There were so many inactive members, but here's our FC house. I'll give you just a quick look because I don't know. It gives me some time to talk about FCs. So aside from the fact that you get those bonus buffs, you get to have like a sense of small community outside of the people of the game. Because I mean, you're not always going to want to conversate with the people out in public. I know I'm not always one who likes to talk to random strangers, but sometimes it is fun. But this, you can just have a little hub. You can buy any plot of housing that you can just have a group home. You can come essentially home and hang out with everyone else in your free company. I didn't show this because it would be a little too in-depth to go, but you can also buy an apartment or like a room from your free company. The thing of it is, you can also get your own house, but the housing market is very rough right now. We were lucky enough to get this one. I'm absolutely happy. But if you ever need help, as long as you're in the right FC, which should be pretty much any FC you join, and you ask, people are going to be willing to help you out. I know I've had plenty of times where I have asked for help and people have been awesome enough to help me. I've offered help many times and helped out a ton of people. Probably not as often as people have helped me just because I'm still fairly new, especially compared to a lot of these players in our FC. But they're awesome and I really love spending time with them. I don't know, it's always great to log in and people greet you when you log in. We always do that for people who log in our FC, and again, it's just kind of to give that sense of community, sense of belonging. Makes you feel like you got a place in this game. You always have a place, please keep that in mind, but this kind of solidifies that feeling, you know? That's why I think the FC is actually such an integral part to this game, because a lot of guilds in other games just, I don't know, they don't really have the same feeling that FCs do in this game. Any of the other ones that I've played, they just lack, I don't know, maybe it's the fact that it's Final Fantasy as well, like Final Fantasy XIV, that it makes it feel so welcoming and warm. But I'm really happy with how things are going for me in the game. I meant to sit here. I'm sorry. But this is just an FC house. I think I love our FC house. I'm not going to say it's nothing special, but because I think it is very well decorated. But anyone can have an FC house and decorate their own. They can work with the FC to decorate it. It may not sound like I'm saying a lot, but hopefully like the feelings I have are being conveyed well. But that was just a quick tour of the FC house so I could talk about the FC. And here, one of the most unique things about this game, honestly, at least in my honest opinion, would be the gathering and crafting systems. This is the first time you're seeing my burb. Her name is Larea. She's fantastic. I'll need to block out that character's name, but I must away. This person walked up and saw me standing here like I was posing, so anyways, so crafting and gathering, a lot of games it's either really way too complicated or it's really simple and unfulfilling. I feel like Final Fantasy XIV strikes a wonderful balance between the two, whereas it's complicated enough to keep you engaged, but not so overly complicated that you have to worry about every little detail. I mean, the highest level crafting is very complicated, but that's a different thing. That's gonna test your abilities as a gatherer, or a crafter, excuse me. So here you can see it says 100%, which the big 100% is the gathering rate. And then the small percentage below it next to that little symbol, that's the high quality symbol. That's your chance to gather a high quality item. With gathering, the orbs that are surrounding me, that means I'm in stealth mode. Enemies up to a certain level will be unable to detect you and attack unless you aggro them yourself. So right here, I'm looking for an ability. My hotbars are still messed up because I had to wipe my hard drive, but I found it. It was called Leaf Turn 3. Leaf Turn 3, I think. And it boosted my high quality gathering rate up to 100%. So early on, it's going to be a little annoying to gather high quality stuff as a gatherer class, but you're able to easily overcome that to be, once you get to a high enough level. And it's not like you have a limited number of gathering chances in total, it's just per gathering points. So this is crafting now. My hotbars are again messed up and I've yet to fix them. But so here you can see the progress, and what just increased was the quality, and that determines what percentage chance you have to get a high quality item. So you want to increase the quality to be able to get a high quality item. Also, even if you don't get a high quality item, the higher percentage your quality is, or like the higher your quality rating is, the better experience it'll give you when you craft it. Here I'm just kind of messing around to get some more space in my inventory so I can show you quick synthesis. Quick synthesis allows you to craft things quickly, although it's not guaranteed to get a successful craft, but as long as your stats are high enough, you can successfully craft. That's pretty much an overview of crafting and gathering. I'll go more in depth if you want, but that's just the basics there. And that, everyone, is about all I have to show regarding Final Fantasy XIV and like the basics and why I think you should play it. Again, this may have seemed very rushed, and I apologize if that's the case, but I really just wanted to try and glance over it just to see, kind of show off the game, not get into specifics, because I could make a single video talking about how best to use your OGCD's off global cooldown skills, what order you should use your combo abilities in, the slide casting thing, all of these can eat up a massive chunk of time if I were to go into depth. So I apologize if it seems like information overload. If I would have gone any more in depth, I feel like it would have for sure been information overload. So if you want to see anything more in depth, I'm still going to be continuing this series. Not always going to be answering questions, but I will do my best to answer questions every so often. Just have like a Q&A week every so often that I can get to all your questions that you've asked me. But as of right now, if you have anything to ask, if it's simple, I mean, you're always free to ask in the comments, but if it's simple, please do ask in the comments and I'll respond as quickly as I can. If it's not simple, I will probably put that in like a little document, a text document, and make a video about something like that later, and I will make sure to let you know. Also, please consider liking and subscribing my channel for more content like this. I also have a Patreon. You're more than welcome to look at it. You don't have to subscribe or patron me, of course, but it would be greatly appreciated so I can improve the quality of my videos and also bring you better content. Until next time, see you guys.